army of the Daleks, you must be destroyed!
So, let's talk about something that is a staple of Doctor Who, and in my personal opinion has been one of the things that has just kind of been there without a lot of purpose for a frightening amount of time when I actually stopped and thought about it. Let's talk about the Daleks. What's been going on with them, and maybe what should be done with them or shouldn't be done with them in the future. I'm actually now quite hopeful for the Daleks because I'm hoping that Chris Chibnall is going to come in and really want to put his stamp on them, do his Dalek story. Because if we're being completely honest, I don't feel like we have had a proper Dalek story since Victory of the Daleks. And I say that knowing fully well that they've appeared plenty of times since then. But that episode really did feel like that was Stephen Moffat attempting to do his stamp on the Daleks. And I know he didn't write it, but it was in his era. It was the attempt during his era, in his time as the showrunner, to really be like, this is us and our version of the Daleks, because Davies definitely had that during his era and, very firmly, put his stamp on what his take on the Daleks was. And, we get Victory of the Daleks, we get a nod to some earlier stuff, we get the new Paradigm Daleks, which the fandom soundly rejected so hard that we basically only ever saw the White Supreme Dalek show up a couple more times after that and then kind of never talked about it again. And I have to wonder if that kind of took the wind out of the sails for interest from Moffat and his team of regular writers to try and do a full-on proper Dalek story again, because I get the feeling they just went, well, we tried, it didn't work, people didn't like it, now let's move on. And I know that Daleks have shown up since that episode, but really think about their appearances since then. We had a couple in the Pandora Opens and Big Bang, but it's not about them. They're just on hand. Asylum of the Daleks, you might be thinking, but it's not about the Daleks. It's about Amy and Rory's relationship, and it's about this early proto version of Clara. It could have been done with Cybermen. The story doesn't structurally, fundamentally change. That's also the case with Into the Dalek. And even though it seems like let's really zoom in on Daleks, it's not really about them and what they're up to. They've got their appearances in Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor, but they're just kind of there because these were big seminal episodes, or they were supposed to be, and you kind of have to have them there. Again, not about them or what they're up to. Even The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar isn't really a Dalek story, it's a Davros story, which isn't quite the same thing. And like I said, we haven't really had a truly proper Dalek-focused story where here's what the Daleks are up to. Here's their latest scheme. Here's their latest plan. Here's what the Doctor has to stop. We haven't had one of those in a long, long time, and we're well overdue for it. So I'm really hoping that Chris Chibnall will come to play, will come with ambitious ideas to move things forward, not like an examination of Daleks like Into the Dalek was. And Into the Dalek's fine. Not another look at Davros. Not any more of these, just stick them in somewhere to fulfill our obligation, because the details of this are sketchy, but to the best of my knowledge, it seems to be fairly accurate that Doctor Who has to have Daleks appear every single series in some capacity. That's part of the deal they have with the Terry Nation estate as to the rights to be able to use the Daleks. So we're going to get them every year no matter what, which is a shame because honestly, they should have been put on ice for a couple of years, because having them show up in these little cameo things, these stories that aren't really about them, they're just the villain, the monster, the threat that is inserted into a story that's about something else, have really started to devalue the Daleks as a whole. And that's a shame. Now, obviously, part of that is the fact that we do have to see them every year, even if there isn't a notable story for them to appear in. But it doesn't help that, like I said, it seems like Moffat and his team gave up trying to do notable stories with them after fandom rejected Victory of the Daleks and the New Paradigm Daleks as harshly as they did. Since then, every time the Daleks have shown up, like I said, they're window dressing. It isn't about them. Certainly not in the way that something like Stolen Planet and Journey's End, or Bad Wolf and Parting of Ways, or Doomsday, or even Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. Those were about the Daleks. Those were about what they were doing. We haven't had that in a long time. And to be fair, Davies really pushing, and here's the Daleks' new big plan, and having them be defeated every time was also devaluing them in a different way. So, I do appreciate to a certain extent sort of downgrading them to more just have them appear status for a little while, but it's been too long at this point. Victory of the Daleks was series 5. We have had 5 completed series since then where we haven't had again, in my estimation, a true proper Dalek story. So, Chibnall, if you're watching this, and I know you are, yeah, I'm on to you, make a bold statement. Make a definitive statement about what you're doing with the Daleks, about the direction that they're going. What is it going to be? I have no idea. Not my business to tell you. But there's plenty of ways to go. There's plenty of things to do. We haven't seen the Daleks try to truly enact a proper plan to do much of anything in a real long time. Just start there. Start basic. Bring back the Movellans if you're desperate. Maybe you can find a way to make those things actually work. Honestly, I would say bring back the idea of the schisms between Daleks, the infighting that we saw in things like Remembrance of the Daleks, Revelation of the Daleks, that really played up that, yeah, they all kind of have a similar way of thinking, but they're not always all on the same page. And some of them want things that others don't, or some of them want to go about it in ways that others don't. That's something that the modern era has touched on occasionally, but usually only on a one-on-one basis with Dalek Khan and the one from Into the Dalek and things like that. We haven't had that real proper schism. Like, how cool would it be to have a story be about a Dalek civil war where the reason the Doctor has to come in and stop it is because it is being waged in a way that is causing so much collateral damage, because obviously Daleks don't care what they wipe out if they're trying to, if there's some kind of power struggle going on between two different factions. Imagine the damage that they could do to a planet, to a solar system, to a galaxy, if they're just tearing through trying to get at this other faction of Daleks. Let's bring that back. Let's do something with that. And because that would give us something big, something proper, something about the Daleks themselves, but would also avoid what was starting to happen with Davies, which is they have a plan, it fails. They have a plan, it fails. They have a plan, it fails. This can be just about focusing on the destruction of them, filtered through a notion of just them, hurling the worst that they've got at each other, and just what gets caught in the crossfire of that. That could be a way to really up again and kind of on a bigger scale thing, do what Dalek did in series 1, which is to reemphasize how dangerous these things are, and to make them imposing again, because they've kind of become window dressing at this point. Now, you don't have to go with that idea. That's just the one that, off the top of my head, that I think would have a lot of potential, but I'm also not a professional writer. If you want to hire me, I'll take the job, but I'd like to think that Chibnall, your team, you are smarter than me, you're cleverer than me. I certainly hope you are. So you can probably come up with better ideas, but please give us something big with the Daleks, because I just feel like we haven't gotten it for a long time, and they deserve it. So that's kind of my thoughts on the current state of where we are with the Daleks in Doctor Who and where I think we should be going from here. What are your thoughts on all this? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Do all the stuff! Like and subscribe and buy a t-shirt. Support me on Patreon. Whatever you want to do. Links for all that stuff and more is down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned. So until next time.
Exterminate!